Hi, this is Jeff, the Big Hairy Dog. This is a webinar that I am recording for version 9 Retail Pro reports. And welcome, Melinda. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them either in the chat or if you have a microphone. I don't know how many we're expecting today, so we're just going to get started since we're at time. And that's roughly our agenda that we have shared on the screen. Okay, so we're going to start with report types in Retail Pro, which I gotta say, a little bit diluted in version 9, but they're good. They're still pretty solid. So let's start with just the report types, right? So at the top level here, if you signed into reports, right? If you launched the shortcut, put your password in, clicked on reports here, right? Now my Delta is out of date. We could talk about Delta. We'll probably bring that in at some point. That's probably a good thing to bring in here. Really see that we have that in our in our layout here, but we should discuss the Delta real fast, right? So we're going to add that. So to keep it simple in the beginning here, originally Retail Pro had journals, list, merchandise, and summary. That's what they had in version 8 and previous versions. And they added audit, and then custom and other are blank folders that we populate. And again, everybody that's just joined, feel free to ask questions. If you have questions, feel free to ask them either in the chat or just turn on your microphone, whichever. Audit is somewhat new. We'll click in there, take a quick look at it. I have not had a lot of clients. I've had a few clients need reports in this area, and we can use the existing reports to pull data from those areas. But it's user accounts, logins, failed logins, that kind of stuff. Again, I haven't had a great number of people, so I don't know if I want to spend too much time on that. We'll come back to custom, of course. Journals, and just to make sure we understand what a journal is intended to do, a journal is intended to be a transaction-based report, basically. So if I'm running a journal, I'm running a journal on the receipt, not the items on the receipt. Now, optionally, I can show the items on the receipt, but the intent of a journal is to run a report on the transaction, on the purchase order, on the receiving transaction, right, on the transfer, not the items necessarily being transferred. Although many journals can include that, right? So if we look at the standard sales receipt journal, right, we have the standard receipt journal, and then we have a version that says no detail on it, meaning just transaction level, right? So if I run one of these, and I guess we'll just pick a date, and I have data in here, but it's pretty old. So I'm gonna say 011523, let's say. Everybody knows that you can type 6 digits, and then when you press enter, it will punctuate the date. I don't know if you know that or not, but you should know that. That's really, really handy, right? I don't know what's in store. Let's see what's in store number. Okay, all right, fair enough. I'm okay with that. So let's just click OK and see what we get here if we run a journal. Now, this is the default journal from the developer, and it's running on some real data that's quite large. And if I zoom in, and there's a zoom at the top here, right, in case you haven't played with that. In a standard journal, the gray bar that you're seeing here is the transaction layer, and it has a gray header at the top. Then the black text is the items within the transaction and is in just regular white and black, right? Now, if I wanted to find something, if I was looking for something, I was looking for a specific transaction amount, if I was looking for a receipt number, I hope everybody knows you can just click find here. And as an example, I'm going to type in 1045435. So 1045435 and press enter, and see how it highlights in blue. Maybe it'd be better if I typed in something that wasn't in that gray bar, right? So 350370, 350370. You see how it highlights it in blue? So very powerful tool if you're looking for a shortage on a given day and you're looking for a certain amount of money and you want to look through all the transactions. Here are all the transactions for a given company for a given day, right? So there's 9 pages. Well, really kind of more like 8, but you see what I mean. You can see every transaction. You can see every item that was sold on every transaction. Now let's compare that really quickly to the receipt journal with no detail. So we'll run that. And 01 1523. Okay, so we'll just fire that off. And this is, in fact, the same report, right? But it's going to display very differently. So this is just a list of transactions, and it is only 3 pages because, having dropped all the items in between, right, it shortens up a great deal. It's also formatted very poorly. Let's not go into that. There were a lot of issues with the way that they formatted some of the reports, certainly. And welcome, Johan. And again, anybody who wants to ask questions, please feel free. So there's your basic journal. So whether you're running a sales journal or a purchase order journal or a receiving journal, there's usually 2 different versions, one with and without the item detail. Lists, I always feel like lists is that weird area that they didn't know what to do with these things, so they just dump them in a list called list. But they're department codes, vendor codes, employee lists, customer lists. So in here, you could certainly, if we don't have one, we could make a report that would allow you to see specific data and export it out. Of course, you can export it right out of the screen too in version 9. So if you're on version 9 and you're using RIL on version 9, you can certainly export any data out directly. But these are mostly just lists. So let's I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on there unless somebody has a specific question or need. Under merchandise, this was intended to be a multi-data type or multiple reports, like so on hand and sales, right, or more. Now, the top 2 reports, because I'm not sure what this is. I don't even know what that is. I'd have to go look at it. But these 2 reports, which are typically the first 2 in anybody's menu, these 2 are very custom reports. They're designed to do a very specific thing. They let you sort of build a report on the fly. Is what they're designed to do. So we should probably run one of these briefly so we can see what's going on with it. Anyway, if we say run this one, the first thing you need to know about this is it's going to fail if you don't change this to your active price level. It always seems to be set on the wrong price level. So I'm just going to tell you that you want to switch that. And honestly, what you should do probably, and you can do this on any report, is that if you click on filters at the bottom, right, you can actually go into the filter and make that change permanent. So if we go into filters now, it may go into elements and criteria in the upper right corner of the screen. So you want to make sure you're on criteria. But then if you looked at the price level field, you could now go in and say change this. So that says subsidiary 1 backup price level. I'm going to change it to store, which is, I think, proper in this data set. So we're going to save that, and then we're going to go back to reports. And then that would be then permanently corrected. So anytime you go into any report and you then go to the filter at the bottom, you're allowed to edit it, save it. Now, if I go to run this, it will now default to the right price level, right? Now, it still won't run, by the way. This thing still is not going to give us anything. Down here, you see these data type slots. So right now, we haven't activated any data for this report. So both these reports are the same. One's vertical and one's horizontal, right? So if we just said, okay, we want to see on-hand quantity. So that we're on hand, we'll say, okay. Then the number 2, we're going to say change on hand to net sales, and we're going to want to see the quantity and maybe the extended price and the date which we have to do here. I'm gonna just bop back to that. If I can get it to work here. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna go back to that day that we were reporting on. I didn't realize I picked a Sunday, but all right, so man, you think these would be easier to use. All right, so there's a day because there's a lot of data at this in this data set, and I don't want to waste time on running. Now this here, just so we all know why this pops up, if I were to edit a report, any report, and save it into your menu, and if I change that report, if I change the report file, if I update it, if I give you a new field, if I give you a logo, whatever, Oracle is going to say, hey, the report on the disk is newer or older than the one in the database. Do you want to update it? Now, the other thing that's weird here is that daylight savings time does the same thing. So twice a year, the report in Oracle is going to be an hour off from the actual report file in Windows, right? So pretty much you want to say yes to this and just get that anomaly wiped out as soon as possible and not waste time on it, right? Probably gonna either blow up or not work. Probably should have filtered it to a like a vendor or something small. This report is good. It solves the problem. It answers the question. It uses what's called a crosstab. A crosstab is like a grid, and so the data presents in this grid format. And hopefully we'll see it here. If not, we may run it again on a smaller set of data. If not, we may just skip it and move on. So while that's running, so we've got journals, we got lists, we got merchandise. Summary is the last area, right? And whereas a merchandise report can report on multiple data types, is meant to report on multiple data types, and we have a question here. That's cool. So Jack, if you have a question, did you want to like activate your mic, or do you want to have your hand up, or do you want to put it in the chat? Certainly open to field questions if you want to throw one in there. If not, we'll just move on and I'll keep an eye out. All right, so anyway, the summary is again our one data type reports like journals. The only one that's multi-data type is a merchandise report, typically. You can build reports any way you want if you're going to go into the SQL. So yeah, I don't think we're going to wait for this much longer. I think I've tap danced as much as I can, right? So I don't think we can stop it easily without just crashing it. So let's and we'll relaunch reports here and put our secret password in. Oh no, you're fine, Jack. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's good. If your mic's not working, you don't need to have a mic. You know, certainly don't have to go there. Since most people in this meeting are on my team, I wanted to inject that it's easy to break reports by changing filters, and not to do that unless you are sure you want to. Yeah, and that is an excellent point, by the way. I would agree with that. So, yes, be careful what you do in a permanent filter. I mean, let me give you an example of that would make sense, actually. So let's go back to our journal for a second. So let's take a basic sales journal. Now, when I run this sales journal, here's the filter, right? I'm going to slide down to the bottom of this filter here, and I'm going to throw it out to you as if you were in the same room, and I'll probably end up answering the question anyway. But in this field here and this field here, so I'm going to open up receipt types. So if I'm running a sales journal on real transactions looking for a shortage, would I want to see high security aborted sales? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that that I should only be seeing real transactions, which probably is just the top one, by the way. We make return items on regular sales. We don't make return transactions. Almost nobody does. So this here would be an example of an edit that I think I would want to make permanently. That I don't want to see the junk unless I ask to see the junk. And the same would be true of a voided transaction or reversed or reversing. I would only want to see the real transactions, not the ones, if they'd been corrected and they'd been, successfully corrected, there was a reversed and a reversing and it was all, I don't need to see that in my report. You follow? So this would be an example of a permanent edit I would want to make. And I would want to make this on summary reports that I run and on journal reports. Now, certainly in a journal, sometimes there is a good argument to see the voided transactions or the high security ones. Mostly not though. But certainly like taking a journal or any other report and editing permanently something like the apartment code or something, like setting it to 1 DCS will break that for many other users. Because you'll only be able to see items in that department, even though there may have been 10 items on the receipt. You'll only see the ones and only see the receipts that have that item on it, right? That category on it or that vendor. So yes, to make a permanent edit, you should think very carefully before you make the edit, shall we say. But there are beneficial ones like those receipt type at the bottom, also possibly for a journal. If you're running this every day and you're running it for today, a permanent edit might be that you want it to default to today. Now, it can't be changed at runtime because it can be, right? But that would save you time if you were running this at the end of the day to look for a shortage or to document it or to give it to the cash rec folks or whatever. Yes, I have had clients that have edited filters in a bad way and caused a tech call on our tech board. And then, so to Jack's point, that is you want to be careful when you're making a permanent edit. You want to be careful that it's one that benefits everyone. That's an excellent point. All right, so I know we never got this report to run, and it probably will take too long to run, so I'm probably not going to run it again. But you guys got the gist of what's going on here, right? Is that to run this report, you have to make sure you're on the right price level. You filter it down to what you want, and then you've got to give it some data types. If you don't give it any data types, you will get nothing. It'll fail. It also will not run on, somehow it's tied to the old limit in Excel of 65,000 records or something. So if you run it on too big a data set, it will error out and give you that message. Anyway, so your basic summary reports to wrap up this whole type thing these are all one-trick ponies. They're excellent reports. They would be normally the standard in reporting that I would go with. If I was writing a report, I'd want to tie it out to one of these reports or the XE out, right? The XE out is the gold standard for reporting. And then these reports here, they're actually all accurate. Now, most of these reports, the sales ones at least, they don't have sales with global discount, but then they added some of those in right down here and they screwed the naming convention up. So there's no space in them. So they appear after the other ones. But this one right here, store sales with global discount, would show you both the sales as they appeared on the receipt and the sales with the global discount. Does anybody get what I mean by global discount? So if you had a receipt, and of course it comes up on the other monitor, but if you had a receipt and that the receipt had multiple items on it, right? And at the bottom there was a subtotal, right? And then there was a discount here, right? This is a global discount that is not appearing at this level here. You follow? So if you were to take this discount percent or this discount amount and spread it back to those items there, you would see the actual price that they sold for. If that makes sense to everybody, right? So just to make your head hurt for a second, I'm going to say that this item here was 10% off, right? Everybody with me so far? And that there's another 10% discount down here. So does that mean that this item here was in fact 20% off? And the answer is, of course, no, right? Because if this was $100, then 10% off is 90, and another 10% off 90 would be 9 more. right? 10% off 90 is 9, pretty sure. So the total amount we're taking off is in fact $19 or 19%, right? That's why I'm using 100. So that's called accumulating a discount, and it's mentally painful for most folks, including me. And anyway, this report will show you that variance. It'll show you by item or by store what your actual extended price with global discount is compared to your not without global discount, right? All these other reports pretty much use without global discount. They use the standard price, i.e. the price that's on the item on the transaction, not considering the discount at the bottom. Okay, so all right, so so other reports, my other reports is a mess. I have reports in here from many clients. Other reports is a blank menu. We usually use it to populate reports in for different people. And I build them and we put them in there, and then there usually is like, you know, a handful of reports. I mean, if you don't have a lot of reports built out, I mean, some clients have a lot of reports. You can see these reports in here from these right here, these EEO reports and these ARA reports at the top here. There's a big suite package, report package for 2 different clients, right? But I mean, we build reports, we throw them in the other, and whatever's in other is something you've requested. The custom folder is also kind of similar to that. It's just that that's the one we picked, and we threw our stuff in there, right? So our BHD reports are in there, and I don't know that we can go through every report we have. Possibly there's some nice ones out here. These top ones here are to analyze your physical inventory, and they rank your top 10 departments or vendors or items, styles. If you need to analyze your shrink after a physical inventory, you would use one of these to target that. I've got some aging reports here that break out the age of your merchandise into columns, whether it's 6 months old, you're 6 to 12 months old, 12 to 18, 18 to 24 and over, 2 years, by department, by vendor, by item, by style, and or in 90-day increments. A lot of good this year, last year stuff, some good on hand stuff. This buying report here is an excellent report, an excellent example of what can be done with a report. Reports can be pretty much built to do whatever you want, I guess. But in this one here, we take this year and the last year, and we take the next 70 days from last year and subtract the sales from the next 70 last year. We subtract the on hand and the on order to see if you still need more to make the same sales. It's pretty cool. Some nice markdown analysis. Discounts at point of sale, who discounted what by cashier, by department, by store, by district, by style, by vendor. Some nice receiving GL stuff, a bunch of sales reports here by all kinds of stuff. This goes deeply and analyzes, you know, your associate, what percentage they are to the other associates, what their units per transaction is, what their average unit retail price is, or average discount, etc. You can see we just tried to think of all the stuff that you might need and throw it into a big menu, right? These bottom trend reports here, as opposed to these top trend reports, I'm not going to run either one of them because it'll take too long. But if we were to run one of these, you'd see in here that there's 12 data ranges, and that you can edit them separately if you want to edit them. And that's really the difference. The difference is this is a multi-data type. You can see on hand, you can see on order, and you can see all 12 date ranges. Down here, this one is actually based on a journal, and it has one date range, and it parses the dates. It knows how to break the whole year apart into months. So it's a little quicker to change the date on that one, right? All right, so enough with report types, I think. Unless we have any questions on that, we're doing pretty good on questions. Perfect. So let's see what else we have to go over here. All right, the delta, we should probably knock that down really quick. Does anybody know what the delta is? The delta is a set of tables in the Oracle database that is used to calculate advanced calculations, like gross margin return on investment, stock to sales ratios, sell through, obviously. So a lot of these calculations are really heavy on the math. I mean, I've done them and they're painful. I'm not going to lie. So in order to be able to run a stats report or statistics report, which you can find in either the merchandise or summary. So if you look in here in summaries and you go down to down here, you should see a bunch of reports that say statistics. So these all use the delta, as does this one right here, on hand by date. This is an odd report. We're not going to run it, but we will poke our nose into it. This report here would tell you the on hand for a given date. And it is important that when you run this, that you put in the date of your choice, right? So what you'd say is I want, I want that date. Specifically, you would say that date to that date. That's how you run this report, which doesn't seem intuitive at all, by the way. It does not seem intuitive. Now, and if you did that, it would then go and find out what the on hand was for that date. Okay, so in regular Retail Pro or Retail Pro proper, if I were to go into inventory and look at the bottom of the screen, we will see here that my delta was last updated on September 24th of 2025. So my delta is not up to date and the report error message is correct, right? So the delta should be scheduled to run in the background. You can click here on tools and usually the drop down menu would appear next to that, but I'm on my second monitor. You can see update delta right here. You could run that. That works fine. It's one way to update it. The other way would be to go to tools, and in tools you could go to the technician's toolkit, and down the very bottom in the technician's toolkit there's a miscellaneous update delta. And if you ever run any report, the stats reports or the on hand by date report, if you ever run any of the reports and you sort of question the accuracy of the data, the first thing I would do is I would go in here to the technician's toolkit, I'd go down to miscellaneous, would turn on the delta, and I'd say, look, do a full rebuild, man. Just wipe that sucker out and give me a fresh build on the delta. This will not take long. I mean, it used to take forever. It takes maybe an hour now, probably. And you just would click start then and it would go. And then rerun the reports. And if you see an improvement in the quality of the data, then that was the problem. And if it's still not right, if you think something's broken, or if it doesn't successfully rebuild, like for instance, you scanned in a UPC to a price, and it somehow got in the database, that'll blow the delta up, by the way. Then you want to call us and we'll fix it for you. All right, so again, the on hand by date, since the delta holds past on hands, right? And the statistics reports here, as well as the statistics reports starting right here with the sell through down to the bottom statistics report here. And these are actually amazing. There's a ton of information in there. This isn't a report on delta or on statistical analysis, but certainly there's good data. If you're into turn and gross margin return on investment and all that, that's where you'd find it, right? So and your delta has to be updated. If your delta is not up to date, you should not run any report that relies on the delta. All right, so changing reports, crystal reports, writer, what goes on with all that, right? I don't know what degree anybody's going to be using Crystal out there, but let's dive in and poke our nose around a little bit, right? So, well, I mean, out of the gate here, this here is pretty easy. It does not require Crystal, right? So if I was going to copy a report, so let me just point at the steps here real quick to make sure we understand. And it could be any report. Right? This one here would be fine. It doesn't matter. You want to identify first what the report is. And you can see right there on the report path that this is an RPT M31 sell through by DCS, right? So that file would need to be copied. So we would have to actually open up, my D drive. That's not it. So we'd go to my D drive, we'd go to Retail Pro 9, we go to reports, we would go to whatever folder we're in here. We're in merchandise, right? And we would find the report that we're looking for here. And there it is right there. We would right click it, we would copy it. And then we would go to whatever folder we want to put it into, and we would paste. Now I would also, of course, here it's added the word copy, if I'm not mistaken, because we actually did paste it into the same folder. But in real life, if you put this in the other menu, it wouldn't do that. And I would go and do something like change the RPT here to like BHD or your initials or whatever. Otherwise, somebody's going to copy this report in the future possibly and overwrite your report, right? So I would do something like this as this is my company's report, and maybe what you did to it, or just put your initials on it or something. You know what I mean? So we're pretty good with that. Now, if I was then going to re-register that into a new menu, I would first need to, starting on the old report, right-click and select all, and right-click and export this out to Notepad. So, and that would give you a view like this here. And okay. It's messing with me. Very nice. All right, it's good. It's all good. Right click, export. Now it's a Notepad, and let's we'll just move the whole thing over here. Right now, it's like losing it. Okay, there's more than one way to get a job done. All right, all right. Okay. Let's bring that back up. All right, so export to Notepad. There it is. I don't know why it's not holding. It's not saving it correctly. So I am just going to cheat, hopefully. And oh yeah, no, I'm not. And it ditched out on me again. I've seen this happen on a number of people's systems, and I don't know why it does it. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. All right, so I just took a screenshot of it, so we don't care. We could close that, and we don't care. Let's get that out of the way. And so basically, if you have this here, either export it, screenshot it, however you want to do it, right? So now it's a very important, by the way, because people did make this mistake all the time. If you put it in the other menu, be in the other menu. Be in the menu that you're about to register the report into. Because what happens when you click register is it automatically adopts this menu here, and everybody forgets to change it. Then they think they put it in the other menu, and then in fact it's in summary or it's in merchandise, and you can't find it, and you're looking for it, and it's terribly embarrassing. All right, so give this a new name. We're not going to finish this. I'm just going to call it name, or name spelled with a W. That's a new spelling for me. But all right, then open up the path thing here. Go into the place where you put it. Find the new report, right? This one right here. Click open. If you want to speed this up, float the mouse over the reports icon at the bottom. Then click in here and again, float the mouse over the icon. It'll speed it up. Then you're going to need to answer any and all lookups. So anything that says lookup, you have to provide the lookup field over on the right. So most of these are pretty much straight up verbatim. What you see there is what you get, and some are not. I don't see the hard ones aren't in this particular report, but I'm going to type store. Now notice that when I type store, the word none is still there, and I have to back that out. That only happens on the first one. Then you can just type store, then you can type DCS, subsidiary, right? So now, if you get faced with one that you don't know and you don't have this cheat sheet, you're gonna be in trouble, right? So down here on this, if I look for UDF3, it's not going to be there. That's because this is an inventory UDF3, right? So if I don't know it's inventory UDF3, if I didn't export this out and I don't have that cheat sheet, I'm pretty much going to be fishing around and not know what to do, right? Now, there's another trick. You notice that when I type inventory, it indexes to that value and finds that value for me, like that, right? If I type something that it doesn't understand, then this is a stupid trick, but it's cool. If I type something it doesn't understand, like an X, doesn't know what to do with that X, so it just opens the drop-down menu. At which point I just take the next one. So a fast way to put in repeating values is to type X, down arrow, and if you go too fast, you screw it up like I just did, right? So don't go too fast. But you see what I mean? It's just a lot faster than typing in inventory 14 times or 12 times. So the first two don't count. Department code, class, pretty much these are easy. Type in the first two characters. So that's it. I want to save this now. I could save this. And it would be fine. It would be ready to run, ready to rock and roll. We're going to cancel that. But that's how you'd copy a report. You'd copy the file in the background, put it in the folder you want, get the parameters, and I will tell you that some of these are really painful. I'm going to go point to like a item sales summary. Like right here, active item. If you search for active, you're gonna fail. It's is active. It's a Oracle status, the field status. So you absolutely have to have your key if you're going to register a report. All right. So okay, moving on then. And I don't know that anybody has Crystal, so I don't know how deep I want to go into Crystal per se. I can point to it. I could give you some tips, and certainly I could show you how to use Crystal if that's something we wanted to go deeper into. But where is our little? There it is. So common changes, aligning, sizing, grouping. Yeah, there's some good things here. You can align anything you want. If you click on a field and you hold the shift key, you can click on another field and another field, and you can right click and align left, right, center, whatever you want to do. You can make them the same size. You can use the shift left arrow to resize them. That's good. Excellent. Perfect. It's good that you guys are using Crystal. I mean, you can do a ton of stuff in here. I mean, honestly, it's a very powerful tool, very tedious. I'm not going to lie. That's the part I don't like. Right. So keyboard commands. So if I use a control right arrow, it's going to move. And if I use a shift right arrow, it's going to change the size. Either way, up, down, left, right. Grouping is very important here. And this report here is at the item level. And if we come to the top, the double equals, the equal sign here, it says that our grouping is at the company and then the department code. So if I were to then suppress or right click and suppress this item level, the report would now be at the department code level, right? So you can always summarize up to a higher value. You can't go deeper into the data if it doesn't exist in the query. But yeah, you could take a journal, which is at the minutia level, and you could go really deep into that's a very deep layered report, and you could easily summarize it to any number of levels. Okay, so ranking is pretty easy. If I wanted to rank this report, say by the sold quantity there or the on-hand quantity, right? You don't have to highlight it, but it is helpful. I'm not going to lie, it's helpful to highlight it. And then up here, there's a record sort order and a group sort order. So if I click on this group sort order, I could say, no, so at the DCS level, right, I could say top N, and see it's already on sold quantity because I was highlighting sold quantity. So I don't have to now pull this menu and go find sold quantity, which is awkward. But so a top N is rank, top down, right? And it sets at 5 by default, but you can set it to, pretty much infinity if you want, or you could say 100. Then if you say 100, then you got to decide whether you want to include everything else as an other entry or not, right? But that's how you'd rank it right there. You just go to group sort order, pick the field, the function. You could do bottom N, you could do top percentage, you could do other functions. Most people do top N, honestly. And then click OK. That's ranking. It's really not hard. Okay. Right. So this report here also has some other things that I'm looking at over here. Right. So you see these blank spaces here. I put these in here. This is so if I export to Excel, there's a placeholder for that spot. So it will export this space and keep these quantities lined up in the export. Also a parameter. So over here, these are parameters. These are the parameters that are in the query. And these are filter fields that I can use in the report. If there's something I want to filter on here that is not here. So let's say I want to filter on the on hand. I don't see the on hand quantity over here. So I want this on hand to be filtered to not show any zeros. So I could come up to the top here and say report, select, record select. And in the record select, since I was on quantity now, right, it is already picked up on hand quantity. I could say is not equal to 0, right? And I just pressed enter and it closed, and I don't trust it ever, by the way. So I always open it up and I want to make sure I view this down here. So in to translate this inside this procedure, this field cannot be equal to 0, right? That's what that says. And that'll drop all the zeros. So if you can think of how to write this, by the way, you can write this. You can open the formula editor here, and you could say and then I could go and pull another field. I could say okay, and sold quantity is not 0, right? Now, you've got to be careful what you ask for here, right? But I could say and sold quantity not equal to 0, right? If I wanted to write a more complex statement, I could. Yeah, I would totally be fine with it. Doesn't care. Now, see what it did is it added both fields in here. And as soon as you click off of it, it then reformats it down there, right? And I don't know that I need this, so I'm going to delete the whole thing and click OK. All right, so yeah, formulas, there's so many things you can do with formulas. I mean, honestly, it's hard to describe all the things you can do with formulas, but a very basic thing that we do with formulas all the time would be this here. Now that looks like it's really complicated. Like, what is all that stuff, right? It's actually not as complicated as you might think. Right, okay, okay. So if I was gonna write, so for, let's see what we got here. So DCS, if I was gonna write a margin percent for this, and this is a terrible example of a report, but listen, if I was gonna write a margin percent on this level here, this is a turn and sell through report. This is terribly complicated, but I would right click here. I'd say new formula, and I would say, probably something like margin percent DCS. That way, when I copy this, I just change the last few characters to indicate that I'm changing this formula to a different layer. So the DCS is you see footer level 2 here on the far left. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to open this up. I'm going to go and find footer level 2. There's footer level 2, right? And I would then need both the sales and the and of course I don't have those. That'd be way too easy, wouldn't it? What do we got here? It's always good in a webinar to have to work extra hard, right? All right, so it's not that big a deal. I'm gonna blow this up, making myself more room to work with. All right, so that's the field I want. So this is the same, right? Only thing that changes is this here, right? So I would just have to know how to change that right there. And it's going to be at this level, right? And the other one that I'm going to want is this one here. Okay, so there's that. And so if I were to say, price minus, oh yeah. If I were to say price minus cost, I think we can all agree that that's margin, right? So if I were to put those in brackets and I were to then divide that by price, which is going to be this whole phrase right here. Now, return characters don't matter in here. So if you want to be nice to yourself, just throw a little return character in there, right? And let's get rid of this stuff. We don't need this. Okay, so that whole phrase, price minus cost divided by price, figures out my margin percent, but it expresses it incorrectly. We have to then multiply it by 100 to move it over and make it look pretty. Now, what's wrong with this picture? The math is perfect, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that math. What's wrong with this picture is if you were to be, if you were to have discounted an item to 0 and you were dividing by 0, because that's the only thing that's sold in that department, you're now going to blow the report up, right? So you then have to add an if not is null. Now this looks really weird, but this exact expression that I'm typing, you can find in all the default reports. Open any margin in any report, and it will say if not is null, left bracket, and it'll have then the price field, and then close, and then it'll have another one that says the price field is not equal to 0. Then go ahead and do the math, and then it'll drop down here and say else 0, right? So I just wrote the same thing, a margin percent for that field, and it looks terribly complicated, but since you're double clicking, typically you're just double clicking these things here, right? And that inserts the expression into your formula. You don't actually have to do the heavy lifting. If I wanted to use any of these fields here, right, this old quantity, I would just put my cursor where I want to insert it, double click it, and it inserts the whole thing. I built it manually because I could, and I didn't want to go find another version of the report. We're not going to save this. All right, so okay, so in a Crystal report, if you go to database and you go to show SQL query, and then you put in the appropriate fields, you got to put a 1 in the subsidiary, and of course we're going to get, because this one's one of those reports that I'm doing some really weird tricks on the dates, and Crystal really doesn't like that. So let's go to like something here like this and try it over here. Database show query. Yeah, so it shows you we're report user, that's us. Then it shows you the package name and the procedure inside the package being used. And now, if you use Crystal, you may or may not graduate to using like SQL or PLSQL developer. This is PLSQL developer, and there's hundreds of similar packages on the market. I've seen people use this thing called Toad that looks very popular. I don't know. There's lots of them out there. I'm going to open up packages right here, and I'm going to pull this over so we can see what we're talking about here. So there's some packages that I have installed in mine. I'm going to go down and see if I can find the one that we were just looking at. So it was report merch BHD 1 SLS on order. It was PO. It was PO never null. So I think it was that one right there. And so then if I right click this and go edit, I can open this thing up and I could make a copy of this and I could save it. But in here you've got two layers, sort of like this is the package layer here that specifies what procedures are inside there, and then this is the actual procedure right here, right? So starting like right here, we're going through and making our declaration here of what the filter fields will be, and we're building some temp strings which we need in a package this size, and then there's a select statement right there. There starts select these fields from those tables. This is a little more complicated than that, but that's it. And I don't want to bore the heck out of you guys. So, you know, you could put any SQL query into a stored procedure. Typically, I would start with a stored procedure that was close to my end goal, and that way I don't have to write all the trim statements and I can just manipulate the format. In here, in any one of these, you could always open up a new window, and you could say, you know, select asterisk from INVN underscore SBS. That's inventory, right? So, and if I execute that, it'll just go get that table and show me that table, right? So, but that's a pretty normal thing to do, especially if you're writing a crystal report or on a package and you don't know what the name of the table is or the name of the field is. You might have to go look. You know what I'm saying? But this isn't really a thing on a stored procedure. Let's just do this. Let me show you a default one. All right, journals is fine. It could be journals, could be summaries. I'm going to right click. I'm going to open this journals just so you can see what Retail Pro has done. Right. So you see here that the one we looked at a minute ago had one procedure inside the package, and this one has quite a few. Right. It has, in fact, little where clauses that modify existing procedures above. So this is more normal of a Retail Pro package. So this journals package has the basic sales journal of the J1, right? But then it has all kinds of other ones. There's your J6 is a receiving one. J7 is transfers, like somewhere up here. The PO ones are up in 13 through like 16. 17 is I believe no, it's a transfer order. I thought it was a sales order, but sales orders are 19. But anyway, the point is that they're all in this one giant procedure, and I don't know that we want to go any deeper than that because I'm just going to start hurting people. So the only other thing on my list here, unless somebody has some other questions, just trying to keep an eye out for those, is scheduling and auto emailing. I could touch on that pretty briefly. I don't know how deep we want to go into that because in version 9, what we had to do to make that fly is we had to acquire a program that could email them first off, which we did, and we included in this. If we set it up, we'll just give you a copy. And what we do is we have a program like this one here that we create in this email package we purchased. And this one looks for a very specific file. So let me just see if I can. Yeah, here we go. So emailer 1 goes with auto reps 1, and 2 goes with 2, and daily goes with daily. And each one of these executables looks for one of these files here, and this file has to be on the C drive. That's the way we wrote it. Okay. In this file here, if it opens someplace, there it is all the instructions on how. So this here is just for you and me, but down here, this is the sending name, the email it's being sent from, who it's being sent to, where this this file that we want to email is, and what the key phrase is. So the trick here is to get rid of all this junk. Just put a 2 there. They're all date timestamped for the year 2026. So that gives us what, 974 years before we stop with the 2 and the date timestamp, right? So so that's how it emails now. Is it now? How do we get the file? Well, we get the file from writing a script. So here's an example of a. That's not really a good example. Let's go to this one. Let's say edit notepad. Okay, that's much better. Yeah, this is a package that I've used a lot, and it's really pretty simple. This phrase here is what generates the report. Fair enough. As this Jack saying is this is a little deeper than he goes, but this here is a command line parameter. If I were to copy this and I were to open up in a run statement like in Windows, I could in fact just paste that right into a run. I could just do that, and it would run. Now I don't know that I have that particular report loaded in my menus, so it probably wouldn't run. But that's all that does. The rest of this is just here to make sure we're successful. This first line just says, if you guys left reports open the night before, that to kill it. That's all that says. Because if reports is open and you launch this, it won't run the report. This just says date timestamp when you start this thing, and this says date timestamp when it's finished. That's all that this is. So I just put a few extra bonus things in there. So this would run it, and it would put it in whatever folder I told it to put it into, and then I would run that email program on that destination to email it. And all this would go into, in Windows, the scheduler, right? The task scheduler. So we'd go into the Windows task scheduler, and we would create our own little folder in here that would say Retail Pro, and then we would add tasks in here to run that batch file, and then to run the email follow-up task. And we would give it a name and have it run with highest privileges, and then the trigger would be what time it's going to start, and then the action here would be what I'm going to run. I would run the batch file in one of these, and I'd go and put another one in for the email program. So the first time we set this up, I definitely would say have a tech walk you through it and make sure we test it and it runs. But once you have one set up and you have something to follow along, you could actually take some of those other ones, and you could easily duplicate what we did. You know what I mean? You could copy this file, change the report name that's being launched, right? You have to also change, like if it's not in the other menu, if it's in the custom menu, you have to change that too, right? This says how it's exporting PDF, Excel, Excel, TXT, yeah, just TXT. But we can help you with all that too. So anyway, that's how you would go about emailing a report automatically. And in that respect, the new Prism Crunch is much easier, because you just basically click on the little scheduling icon and say when you want to run, and it starts running that way. So yeah, it is. Jack was right before he bugged out that this is a little deeper than some people want to go. But any questions? Anything left here that I haven't covered, or anything that you want to know that I haven't touched on? If not, I'm going to say thank you for joining us today, and good seeing you guys again. And take care, and we'll see you next time. All right. Thank you very much.